I'm Jim Schmidt. I'm going to continue instruction on how I build a tenor saxophone. Today I'm going to show you how to locate the tone holes of the bow. First of all, I got to cut the bow to length. The outside measurement along the outside of the bow is about 315 millimeters. Measuring on the inside, what we call the crook, is about 108. So you have to trim off the ends, level, perpendicular with the bow center line to get the correct length. The small end of the bow may be too small in diameter because of the dimensions I use for the body cone, the thick wall, and the bows that are readily available. So what you can do is machine a tube with a little bit larger diameter, force it into the bow with a hammer, stretch it out just a little bit to get a better match to the body cone. Then you take a straight wire and you rub it on the surface of the bow like that. And what that does, it gives you a line on the high point of the bow. Now that line is this line on the drawing. We use that line to locate the tone hole centers. On the largest tone hole of the bow, we have to rotate that tone hole 11 millimeters toward the crook. That's important. Don't forget that. This is a drawing showing the ends of the bow with center lines drawn through the quadrants of each circle. Now, like I showed you in the first video, you take a compass with a cutting blade on one end, cut out these circles, like I've already done in this piece of paper. Then you lay paper over the bow. That way you can mark the quadrants of the bow. Use a felt pen or a center punch to make permanent marks there. This is a drawing of the bow. It's going to help us locate the tone holes. This is a high point line of the bow that I showed you before. So first, cut out a piece of paper, about like that. Now, this is the quadrant line I showed you before. So we're going to align that at the end of the bow, tape that on, do the same thing to the other side, align it with this quadrant line. Another piece of tape in the center. Alright, now we can put center punches on the bow. Use your hammer, put a center punch in the center of each tone hole. Because the paper is flat and the bow has curved surfaces, we've got to get the paper to fit the curved surfaces. So I've cut the plans here in the center and here all the way out to this line, and then I've taped it 3 places in the center of the crook and on the outside. Now we can use the center punch to mark the red circle on these centering lines. Also here, 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 and here, 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 and here. Use a hammer, make center punch marks. Later on, those punch marks will help us locate where the tone hole is supposed to be. Now, on this large tone hole, you got to remember it's rotated 11 millimeters towards the crook. So we put our center punch marks rotated towards the center. Also note that there's an arrow at this tone hole line and again here on this side. These arrows will coincide with the bell and the body cone. This is the paper I used to mark the quadrants at the ends of the bow, the big end and the small end. Notice I drew a line here in the big end, and also on the small end with the arrow. This is the center line of the bow. This arrow matches up with this arrow on the body cone. This line and this arrow is rotated 24 millimeters from the center line of the right hand tone holes. 24 millimeters over. Same as on the plans. This is the right hand center line of the tone holes. Rotate over 24 millimeters to get to the center line of the bow. To measure the bell length so you can trim off the end, use a flexible tape measure, go all the way to the outside of the rim, measure along the outside, should be 340 millimeters. On the inside, starting at the outside edge of the bell rim, should measure 270 millimeters. We have to find the center line of the bell. It's not easy. You just have to eyeball the bell, get it so it's straight, and then take the piece of wire and rub that on the surface of the bell so it ends up on the center line, keeping your wire straight and parallel. Now this is the line I just rubbed with a piece of wire. I drew this black line here so it's easier to see. This is the center line of the bell. And this is 5 millimeters over to this arrow because we rotate the bell in relationship to the bow. 5 millimeters at the mating surface. This is a quadrant line on the outside of the big end of the bow. Notice I've drawn a line and an arrow there. That line and arrow matches up with the bell. Now what's important about the bell is the center line of the bell is rotated 5 millimeters over. So that's the center line and we're twisting it 5 millimeters in that direction. Center line is this way and then we twist it in that direction. So looking at the top of the bell, you're turning it clockwise. After we've rotated the bell 5 millimeters and match up these lines and these arrows, we take this tone hole center line and transfer it to the bell. Draw a line right here, put on some other arrows so it matches up with these arrows. Now with this line here, this is difficult, but this is the best way I found to do it. Take a piece of wire and rub it right on this line and continue that wire down the bell, keeping the wire parallel the entire time you do that. That'll draw a line on the surface of the bell. Now, these are the plans of the bell. You cut it here at the end along the sides, and you also cut it right here by this end of this tone hole. So it looks like this. This line that we drew with the arrows, you line up with the center line of this tone hole right on the edge of the bell, tape it in place. Now the line that I showed with the wire, I drew a little line right there. You line that up with the center line of the tone hole, tape it on. Okay, now you know where your tone hole is going to be on the bell. Take your center punch, punch the center of each tone hole with a heavy punch because you're going to have to locate the centers. Also, the red circle at the quadrants of each tone hole and the red line. Now these center punches are just for locating the tone hole. The actual location of the tone hole will be centered inside these punch marks, but the tone hole itself will be the black line, the smaller circle. When it's time to join the bow to the bell and the body cone, soft solder the bow to the bell at the collar, both sides. Also soft solder the bow to this body collar, but only epoxy this joint here where the body cone meets the collar. That way you can warm it up and remove it in case you have to make a repair. The plans show the left-hand main line, the center of the tone holes. This red line is the left-hand main line. It's what I call a reference line. Most of the tone holes are measured from this line. Here again is the center of the left-hand tone holes. That line continues all the way up to the end of the saxophone. Notice I have 11 millimeters drawn right here. Again, 11 millimeters. That 11 millimeters is the offset of the center of the clamp from the center line of the left-hand tone holes. So the center of the clamp, where the slot is rotated 11 millimeters from the left-hand main line, tone hole center line. When the body cone is assembled to the bow and the bell, you want a distance of 85 millimeters from the body to the rim of the bell.